like to call to order the Tuesday, August 5th meeting of the Monmouth City Council and ask Phyllis to call the roll, please.
Councilor Carey.
Here.
Councilor Coons. Here. Councilor Milligan.
Here.
Councilor Schaefer.
Here.
Councilor Silvernagle.
Here.
Mayor Oberst.
Here. All rise for the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. First item tonight is the consent calendar, which consists of a total of 4 sets of minutes. The council meeting and work session from July 1st, so that's 2, and the council meeting and work session of July 15th, that's the other 2. If I could have a motion to approve those 4 sets of minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we will adopt those. I have a brief mayor's report. As usual, it gets a little quiet in the summer and I haven't had as many things going on, but I had a wonderful time, and most of you all were there, at shoveling a little dirt at Madrona Park, and the official groundbreaking for Park Project number 2. And I kind of drove by at a distance and looked over and saw a lot of equipment and orange fences, but I haven't gone to take a close look to see what they're doing yet. But we're underway, and looking forward to seeing that one done. And I'll just mention, as long as we're talking construction, the bit of 16th Street that needed a sidewalk is getting a sidewalk. So glad to see that project moving forward as well. The WinPeg board met, and there's kind of a good news, bad news, good news. The potentially bad news was that the prices we had for servers were for a single channel, and it was considerably more for a 3-channel server. The good news is that having raised the peg fee, it's sufficient to, we are not going to have to wait until it accrues to buy that server. The company will lease it to us for less per month than we're expecting to see in PEG revenues, which gives even better news because, and Darren, you know, I think you talked with Bill at the university about this, but the university may be willing to throw in part of the price of this server in reflection of the fact that they will have their own channel on WinPeg. And so we're going to have to sort through all that and make certain that everybody is taken care of and protected and everything else, and that we'll have an agreement to reach. But it's looking good there. Rod has been working really hard to put together the package of equipment that's going to be needed, and not only to bring in a server, but also to have 2 satellite dishes, one for the Arch channel and one for NASA, so that we can have those 2 streams available at any time to fill the schedule. And also the connection from Western to MyNet's head-end. So there's a little bit of equipment to be put in place there. So he's working hard to put together a package for all that, plus a package of production-related items. For example, some GoPro cameras so that we can have kids in the community if they want to. I saw a group of boys go riding past my house last night, and one of them had a GoPro on his helmet on his bike, and you know, as he's riding along and turning his head to look at things, it's all being recorded. And a lot of folks are really into that approach to things right now. So we're going to see if we can put some equipment in the 2 Arch centers if we eventually have the old fire station across the street serving as a temporary home for the Ash Creek Arch Center at this end of the community, that we may have a mini studio in each location. So Rod's really putting together a nice package of stuff, and it's looking really good there. Every now and then, the mayors of the Mid-Valley region, and that would be Polk, Marion, and Yamhill, get together with a Mayor's Coalition meeting, and it's usually one of those mayors hosting at their home. And Brian Dalton over in Dallas had us over, and you know, it's rare that all the mayors make it, but we probably had 12, 14 mayors from around the region over to Mayor Dalton's house, and just an opportunity to check in with each other and find out what's going on in our communities and so on. That's always a good event. And I think that's all I have. So I will turn then to reports from council reps to boards and commissions and ask Councilor Silvernagle to tell us about the Senior Advisory Board.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Senior Advisory board met on July 22nd. They've got their volunteer recognition night that's coming up on August 22nd at 2 p.m. So that's something they look forward to each year. They've got an appraiser of antiques coming in. It's on the 8th, so a few days from now. Oregon Lions Sight and Hearing will be also here on August 9th for those that have sight and hearing issues that they would like to have addressed or looked at. So 3 things at least that are kind of unique to the senior center this particular month. And I believe they're not going to have a meeting in August, so we'll wait until September to meet again.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Any community announcements? Council? Hearing none. Mr. Manager?
Yep, just a couple of add-ons to the mayor of the town. They've actually done some breaking of pavement where the old one, they've been sloughing that kind of into, kind of using that for base for the other work. I'm starting to work on the storm system's going to be in there. And then streetlights are making good progress. Our crew's been out there quite a bit getting those prepped and ready to go and everything. So, yep, they're making good progress. And Madrona, the main thing they're working on right now is perimeter. They're doing excavation for the perimeter. They've done some work on the base, but then now they're switching off to the perimeter. So lots of dirt movement out there. And then last one, wanted to know was police station plans are in routing, so they're being routed right now. So all the departments are taking a look at those. So we're hoping a couple of weeks, they just got the bid process out for the subs. So within a few weeks, we can actually start building.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Any citizen comments tonight? Okay. With that, I will turn to the business agenda, which is a single item, the public hearing vacating a piece of right-of-way.
Members of the Council of the City of Monmouth has proposed vacating a portion of the Jackson Street right-of-way. The area to be vacated is approximately 17 feet by 254 feet. The area of right-of-way to be vacated is located on the north side of Jackson Street West, located west of the intersection with Stadium Drive. The right-of-way area is undeveloped and is covered with natural vegetation. I think I included several photos in your staff report this evening. The portion of Jackson Street adjacent to, or the portion of the Jackson Street right-of-way adjacent to the area to be vacated was dedicated by Harvey Marr to provide access when the Marr Addition subdivision was developed to the west of the subject property. The amount of area dedicated as right-of-way was 83 feet wide. The standard for minor collector streets such as Jackson Street at that time was 66 feet wide. So there's excess of 17 feet of right-of-way that was dedicated. The remaining 66 feet of right-of-way that would be left after the vacation would be developed with a sidewalk on the north side that would match the existing development of this street at present. That is within a 66-foot wide right-of-way. Utilities are currently located within the 66-foot wide right-of-way adjacent to where the new sidewalk would be constructed. Oregon Revised Statutes Chapter 271 provides the requirements to vacate platted public property, such as street rights-of-way. The proposed right-of-way vacation has been initiated by the City of Monmouth as provided under ORS 271-130. ORS Chapter 271 requires a public hearing, which we're conducting this evening, and if approved, the vacation must be adopted by ordinance. The area proposed for vacation is approximately 4,395 square feet in size, as I noted, at 17 feet approximately by 254 feet approximately. Notice of the council public hearing was published for 2 consecutive weeks in the Itemizer Observer, and notice has been posted on the area proposed for vacation as required by ORS 271-110. All utilities serving Monmouth were notified of the proposed vacation and were asked to mark any services located within the area proposed for vacation. No utilities are located within the area proposed for vacation. Granting the proposed vacation will not adversely impact public safety or the functioning of the city's transportation system. The area proposed for vacation has been undeveloped with no apparent adverse impacts to the transportation system. If the vacation is approved, this portion of Jackson Street West will still meet or exceed the minimum standards for a minor collector street. If the vacation is approved by the council, title to the vacated right-of-way would transfer to the adjacent property. In this case, that's tax lot 1303, and that's as required by Oregon Revised Statutes 271-140. The area to be vacated would be consolidated with adjacent tax lots 1303, 1301 and 1300 under the same ownership. The consolidated property is zoned high-density residential, and a multifamily housing development is proposed for the property. In conjunction with that development, new sidewalks would be constructed within the right-of-way along both property frontages on Jackson Street West and Stadium Drive North. On page 2 of your staff report, you have various alternatives. And financial implications are that the vacated right-of-way would now become privately owned and would be subject to property taxes. The assessed value of the vacated area as well as property taxes would increase with development in conjunction with adjacent property. Staff is recommending that council approve that right-of-way vacation 14-01, and then staff would bring to you an ordinance to approve the vacation. We've included a sample motion on page 3 of the staff report. Well, I guess what we can do is open the public hearing, and this is not really a land use matter, so I wouldn't follow the script on the board. I would just ask for it if there are people who want to testify.
And I realized, Mark, as you started talking, that I had not formally opened the hearing, but I think calling you and noting that it's a public hearing when I announced that the item, Wayne, is that
Yep.
sufficient for you?
Yeah, the most important thing is we give the public opportunity to comment.
And so, go ahead.
That concludes my report. I'd be
Okay.
happy to answer any
Okay,
questions.
so council, do you have any preliminary questions for Mark before we reach out for comment? Gentlemen, please.
Yeah, I have something up, but I'll.
Oh, hang on to it now, okay. Here we go, please. Okay. And with that, if there is anyone who would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this vacation of this right of way. And if you could give us your name and city for the record.
My name is Susanna R. Knight. I live at 237 Mar Court in Monmouth. My telephone number is 503-838-1886. I am here in opposition to the vacation. Before I begin my testimony, I'd like to ask Mark if he has some kind of a diagram that he could show us to clarify which part of this is being vacated. Because none of us sitting out here know what that is. And I thought I understood what it was,
We've got a
but
staff report here.
now I don't think I do.
Here's the staff report.
Okay, I just want to have you show me where.
Okay, look at the photos here. This is looking to the west,
Uh-huh.
okay? There's the edge of the right-of-way that would remain as right-of-way. Here's the street.
Okay,
Okay.
and what does the city own?
The city doesn't own any of it. This is
Oh.
all right-of-way. This that you're seeing here, and
Uh-huh.
17 more feet to the side of this post. So this is the amount of right-of-way we need to develop the utilities that are here and to build a sidewalk right here. There's 17 more feet of excess right-of-way that looks like this. Lawn and shrubs. You can see, I think here's a survey marker that's set there.
Okay, so I'm first going to say that I misunderstood. I thought the 17 feet paralleled the lots on Marquardt, because when I went to the apartment next door to the lot,
Uh-huh.
there's 17 feet that has nothing built on it from the back of the apartment to the fence line. So that made me think that was the 17 feet you're talking
Right,
about.
and 17 feet are the area between the two sawhorses that have been set up with the notice signs on them.
Okay, I know
Yeah,
where those are.
yeah, that's the side of
Okay.
the street, and that's the so it's 17 feet beyond that fence corner that you see there denoted with the utilities and the fence. The utilities stay in the existing right-of-way. The 17 feet to the north of that doesn't have any utilities in it, and we don't have any need for it, for the street to be developed.
Okay, so, doesn't change what I'm gonna say tonight, folks. And I wanna apologize if I can't look you in the eye and tell you what I'm thinking about when I say this, but I think I have my concept down here and in a good orderly way so that you can understand it, but I'm gonna read it to you because my husband was able to get the printer to work at the last minute. So, here we go. I've already told you that I'm opposed to the vacation. And that's because without the vacation for the developer, the units can't go in at the size that he wants to do at this time. So, I have a twofold issue with the vacationing of the strip of property. I guess it's not owned by the city, but whoever owns the strip of property. Because if it's transferred to the developer to meet the acreage requirement to place 21 units on the property that he's already purchased on the northwest corner of Stadium and Jackson, number one, it's gonna change the character of our neighborhood, the whole section. And secondly, it's gonna increase safety issues that already exist there. There's an incredible amount of safety issues on that corner. So first I'm gonna talk to you about the change in the neighborhood, which I'm gonna call the change to the horizon of the neighborhood. So please understand that I don't know who this developer is. The only rumor I've heard is it's the same person that developed the whole new set of 5-bedroom units behind the campus safety complex. And if it isn't that person, well, then I don't know who it is. I don't know what the person looks like. I've never met him personally, but it appears to me that 5-bedroom units seem to be the latest and greatest here in Monmouth. Okay. As a citizen of my neighborhood in this community for the past 25 years, I have no experience with understanding what zoning allows developers to do, nor have I had any interest in zoning. I understand sometime after purchasing our home in 1990 that the large parcel of property behind our home would someday be developed, as the owner Carl informed the neighbors that he intended to sell it to fund his retirement. The word in the neighborhood was that he saw the college as a purchaser, as they would need more parking. I anticipated that there would be an apartment on the site at some point in time, but never to the extent that I now understand is being planned, based on this document, which I don't have with me, but Mark Fancy gave me an 8x10 layout. I can't read it very well, but that's what I'm basing my statement on. It's very difficult to review because it was so tiny. When I stopped in City Hall one day to discuss the development with Mr. Fancy, he indicated that the city would meet the next day with the developer. I asked if I could attend, and I was told it was not a public meeting. Why couldn't a member or members of the surrounding neighborhood be allowed to sit in on such a meeting that would have a profound impact on their property? I also inquired about receiving information about the decisions reached in that meeting and was informed no. So, I chose to contact the chair of the Planning Commission. I left my name and phone number and received no return call. Not even to say that no discussion of this issue was allowed by Mr. Fancy. So I talked to a city councilman that I knew and shared my concerns. I was subsequently told by that same councilman that he could not continue to discuss this issue with me under Mr. Fancy's directive. Wow. How does the neighborhood know what is happening? Nobody had any clue what was planned for this site. I asked Mr. Fancy if a hearing was planned. He indicated that no hearing was required regarding the property because it was zoned high density, and that was that. He did indicate that the city would need to have a hearing regarding the vacation of the 17-foot stretch of property which the city owned, or whoever owned it, and which the developers would need to complete their plan. He indicated signage would be placed regarding the hearing, but the information would be in small letters, so we would have to pay attention to what it said. Most folks driving by would not have noticed the 2 white sandwich boards tucked onto the property. Fortunately, my daughter noticed and told me, hey, the signs are up. So now here we are, with finally a chance for the neighborhood to have a voice. So, in 1978, when the zoning map was set, what was high density? Was it really 5-bedroom units? I would challenge the city to locate any 5-bedroom unit built in highest density zoning in 1978. So, for me, why am I concerned about the horizon? Well, if you look north on Stadium, you will note that the apartments are all 2-story. single-unit dwellings back up to them. So that means the entire area larger than a city block, it's that whole section, from Jackson up to Church, from Stadium to the backside of Mar, is all no more than 2 stories. They're 2-story apartment complexes in single-unit dwellings. So now, if I understand the developer's plan, and based on what I've heard, there will be 8 5-bedroom apartments. Now, I don't know if the 5-bedroom apartments are going into 3-story units, but I have an inkling that they are, and I couldn't tell it on the piece of paper that I got regarding the development. So all of a sudden, in a neighborhood that has 2-story apartments and 1-story homes, we're now going to have a 3-story building standing there. I think it's an incredible disservice to the neighborhood and to those of us that live there. Very disappointing. You already know about the huge complex behind the safety building and how stunned people are about how huge that was, what it did to that neighborhood, and how unhappy everybody has been since that happened. So I hope you'll keep that in your mind as you consider all this. That's my concern about the horizon of the neighborhood. My second concern is parking. Now, I don't think any of you live up in that section of town. If you do, you'll understand what I'm saying, and if you don't, it might be eye-opening. If indeed there are 79 bedrooms built on this corner, this will bring a minimum of 79 additional cars to that corner of Stadium and Jackson. An already super busy intersection will have a great increase in traffic. Anyone with any knowledge of sleeping arrangements for college students know that there are usually 2 students residing in 1 bedroom. So even if every 2 bedrooms in this development had 1 extra resident, that would be a possible addition to 30 to 40 more cars with no designated parking, above the 79 parking spots that are there for the 79 bedrooms that are there. When my daughter was attending WU, she lived in an apartment, 4 girls in 1 bedroom, 4 girls in the other bedroom. They had 8 students living in that. So you never can tell how many students are going to be in 1 bedroom, but I can guarantee you every student has a car nowadays. On the southeast corner of Jackson and Stadium, now I want you to think about this for a moment, there was a little red house there when we moved in 25 years ago. That little red house was raised last summer, and building began on it. I assumed it was a duplex, but the time it was done, it was a 3-plex, and I went, oh, well, I guess that's not a single-unit dwelling. I was there yesterday talking to one of the residents, and lo and behold, I discovered that not only is it a triplex, it has 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. So that 1 spot now has 9 bedrooms with a minimum of 9 cars, which used to have 1 house with 1 car. When I talked to the young man yesterday, he told me that right now there's 9 cars there all the time. Well, if you look at that spot, there's 3 garages and 3 spots on the driveway. So you all know where the other 3 cars are going. And he told me they're on the street, and they would have 4 on the street, but one of them's brother used his car so much he told his brother to keep it. So fortunately, there's only 3 cars on the street. If I had access to a zoning map or someone explained it to me, I might understand how a triplex with 9 bedrooms replaced a single unit dwelling with 1 bedroom next to a single unit house. All the neighbors in the Marcourt neighborhood recognize that cars are already parked from Stadium to Marcourt during the day, during the academic year. That means no apartment parking is available along there at this time. So when the new residents begin parking in front of their apartment on Jackson, where will the displaced cars go? Where are they all going to go? Any of you that have hung around college kids know they park the closest spot to the door. And if I understand the map of the development, I think those 8 5-bedroom units face Jackson, but I might be wrong. I couldn't understand it. If they are, that means that bundles of those kids are gonna wanna park right in front of their door. So you know that even if there's a parking spot over here, they're gonna be parking here. But the people that normally park there going to college can't park in that parking lot. So this is gonna be an interesting situation. Along Stadium, so when the new residents begin parking in front of their apartment on Jackson, well, where will the displaced cars go? Along Stadium? That also is packed with cars during the week from 8 to 3. Again, I chatted with a college employee back in June regarding the parking on both sides of Stadium. She didn't know why that happened. None of the people on Mar Court understood why all of a sudden there was parking allowed on both sides of Stadium. But she said it is dangerous for her driving to the campus parking lot, and proceeded to explain why. I asked her if she would come and speak when there was a hearing on this. She said no, she was shy. She didn't think she could do this. I likewise asked the student I talked to yesterday if he would consider coming and giving testimony, because he said, I definitely see a problem if there's 79 units going in there. He said, no, I'm not really a public speaker. So I just want you to know that most of the world isn't brave enough to get up here and sit and tell you what they think about things. They quietly hope things won't change, and then they do. Hold on, I have to find my place. The ELI, that's that English language school that's there, okay? I went and talked to him yesterday. And he said right now they have at least 5 cars parked on Stadium with the people they have there. However, he did say their clientele is changing and they're getting more of the Arabic nations, I guess, and they will have cars. They all get cars. So I anticipate that there's going to be more cars from ELI that are going to come to park along Stadium. And what about safety issues surrounding the Marcourt Park when cars are U-turning to return to Stadium? We have a lot of little children now living in our cul-de-sac that go down to that park all the time. So, why should the vacation not be approved? Because the addition of all those cars will cause serious safety issues, and the character of what remains of our neighborhood will be lost. I ask the council to consider, what if this was going on in your neighborhood? Would you be brave enough to come here and tell everybody what you think about it and the issues that you have with it? Maybe you would, because you're council members. Okay, thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
This is testimony, not question and answer.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, thanks.
that's good. I probably can answer them.
Hello, my name is David Melton. I live at 753 West Jackson and I'm down there at Marcourt. And I've lived there approximately 35 years. I've raised my 3 kids there, and I got 8 grandchildren that continually come over and spend time there. And we went through this same deal about 12 years ago. They built some apartments right next to our house, and we came to these meetings, and they pretty much sold us down the river before we ever got to the meetings to take care of it. And I think this is probably going to end up the same way. But we figured we have to come down and testify this thing. The safety concerns are going to be terrible. More cars up there. I've really got 2 hats here. I live down there. I drive school bus. That's my route that I drive there. And I have a school bus stop before Jackson Street on Stadium. And I got to cross little kids to go across the street and go down Marcourt. And continually I got people, I'm not going to say students, but people running my stop signs, texting while they're going through. I'm honking my horn, they won't even look up at me. And I've complained several times to the Monmouth Police and Independence Police both on that. And I cannot believe they're going to put 3-story apartments next to our house. or across the street from our house in our neighborhood. Be looking right down the back of Marquardt. And there's no place for this parking. A couple years ago, they had one side of the street up on Stadium, there was no parking at all allowed. Then last year, I think they went and started allowing the parking again. And when I come down in my school bus, if I get another school bus or a truck, I can barely get through there now. And the kids are down there cutting the corners on the turns. And if this goes through, we have to start thinking about putting a stoplight down there or a four-way stop or something. I think it's one of the most congested places in Monmouth right now, before this apartment deal goes in. It's not so bad now, but during the school year, it's terrible. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Yes, my name is Marion Spike, and I live at 277 Marquardt. I lived there approximately 12 and a half years. And I work out of my home there and travel to the community regularly on a daily basis, in and out of my place of my home, my place of business. That area there on Jackson and Stadium is incredibly crowded right now, and then also dangerous to look both. You're careful, you look both ways, and like was mentioned earlier, that there's traffic that comes through there that doesn't stop. Students that do walk across, the crosswalks without looking. So it's just a place that needs some good attention. Now, right now that we know there are a lot of sporting events and activities that take place in that area, and when people come to our area, which we want them to come, they park in the neighborhood, and they park along the streets. If we have larger units with more cars on the roadway, then of course we're going to have even more difficult problem than we have. Right now they park all the way up Marquardt, which we welcome them, we greet them, and we're glad to have people in our neighborhood. That's not a problem. But when it becomes a traffic safety issue like it can be, it's going to be a real problem. And we are growing a lot of kids in that area. Families are coming into Marquardt with younger kids, and it's already, we want to be careful in what's taking place. So I don't know what we're going to do with cars that want to come to graduation, football games, track meets from the district track meets that they have in that area. I don't know what you're going to do with the cars that, I know they're going to try and come up our area, park in our area, and there won't be as much room if we put this kind of. So I just want to state that my wife and I shouldn't probably speak for her, but I think I can, are against the vacation.
Speaking for your wife will get you in trouble every time.
Yeah, I can, that's true. But I want to state that we are against this vacation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Tom Simons. I live at 787 Jackson Street. And like David, I also have 8 grandkids. And my grandkids enjoy that block considerably because it's got a downhill slope, which is perfect for skating, for kids skating down the hill. With the amount of traffic that's going to, or the amount of cars that's going to be brought into that neighborhood, I'm concerned now with just what we have. I have to sit out there and physically watch them all the time for the cars coming up and turning around and going back down the street. I'm for expansion, but I'm not for people not considering the safety, particularly on that corner. Yesterday, I've only lived there about 3 years, but I've seen 6 people in 3 years run that stop sign from Jackson Street through Stadium. I've never run it because I lived there, but there's new tenants in the neighborhood that lease the house to students going to college. So when they come to the neighborhood, they've never been there before, and evidently they can't see a red stop sign. Hopefully a light or something, a 4-way stop could change that. That's my biggest concern, is the safety of the children in that neighborhood. I'm very worried about the little kids. the cars parking, they darting out between cars. Somebody's gonna get hurt very soon if this happens. That's why I'm opposed to this building. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to take notes on everybody's comments, and I'm falling behind. Anybody else?
That's okay, John, I don't need to speak.
Are you sure?
David Street, there's no-
Okay, with that, I will turn this around to chance for council to ask questions of staff again. If you have any, speak now. Mr. Councilor Carey, I can tell you just got a bunch, so.
Well, I've got some individual and unique questions, but it might serve all to have a little clarification on process. I think that there might be a little confusion in terms of the role of the council relative to the development generally, and then the role of the planning commission. The council is going to act or begin consideration of the issue of vacation of that particular stretch, which are questions. But to me, it would be helpful, perhaps, that you know, so those that have given testimony understand exactly.
No application has yet been submitted for multifamily development. What is proposed is, I believe it's either 21 or 22 units. If the vacation is not approved, there will still be something like 19 units that will be built.
Can you
We
pull
just
the
haven't-
microphone up? I
Yeah,
can't really
yeah.
Yeah,
hear.
we can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah. No site plan review application has been submitted for the development. We held a pre-application conference that the developer paid for, and we met with him, city staff did, at that time. And I believe that the size of the development is either 21 or 22 units, I have to double check. If the area proposed for vacation, if the council decides not to vacate it, there's still gonna be something like 19 units that can be built on the property. It'll just now have an odd 17-foot wide long strip of lawn.
And Mark, there, when you look at the zoning regs around high density, it specifies number of units, not number of
Right.
bedrooms, so.
Right. The property, I gave Ms. Knight a zoning map that I believe dates to the late 70s. That shows the property in question, adjacent to the area to be vacated, has been zoned high density since the 70s. That the zone allows 20 units per acre. The zone itself does not address bedrooms, it deals with units. However many bedrooms are in the units, that's not regulated by the zoning ordinance for any of our zones. We do regulate, when it comes to bedrooms, we do regulate off-street parking requirements based on bedrooms. A couple of years ago, after the triplex that was mentioned, that was one of the last buildings that went in before our planning commission and council made more stringent off-street parking requirements. So now, for any proposed unit that is 3 bedrooms or larger, the amount of off-street spaces is 1 per bedroom. So a 5-bedroom unit will require 5 off-street parking spaces. So the pre-application conference we held with the applicant is very much aware of our regulations here. They showed that they provided the 79 spaces or whatever it was that needed to be required in off-street parking. They met the city's now more tough parking requirements. So that's a little bit of the, yeah, and so this is a first step. The site plan review application does not require a public hearing. It is an application that's dealt with by a site plan review committee comprised of the public works director, myself, and a member of the planning commission. Currently that member is Donna Cable, chair. So that application comes in. As I instructed Ms. Knight, that allows for written comments from the neighborhood. So although there is not a public hearing, we request any written comments and we respond to those in the staff report. So does that help
It does.
describe the process?
It does, and I hope it's enlightening or at least so there's
Right.
process.
So if the vacation is approved, then you would enact an ordinance and that would transfer that property by statute to the owner of the adjacent property, which is the developer. And so that they would then have a consolidated piece of property or pieces of property that they would then submit a site plan review application for the proposed development.
And then there are, as those, is there an opportunity for this sort of testimony at the planning commission?
If they wanted to appeal the site plan review committee's decision,
Yeah.
then you could have a public hearing at that.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to that, because that is the case. That's where the public process comes in. You know, the public has an opportunity to comment on the site plan review process. A party that's not satisfied with the decision of the site plan review committee can appeal. And then you have a land use hearing that deals with all of the zoning regulations. This is not the land use hearing.
Right.
And this hearing doesn't address the proper use of the property, doesn't address parking, doesn't address site development. That's all later on, and that's in a different hearing. Because again, there's not even an application in front of the city at this point. And so it is important to distinguish this process from that process. And the development process does start with the site plan review, has the opportunity for appeal to the planning commission and beyond the planning commission to the council. And that's where all the zoning elements get applied.
Council, could appeals be made beyond
To
council?
LUBA, sure, yeah.
Right, all the way to
Well, that was the reason
Circuit
for
court.
requesting that councilors and planning commissioners not be
Right,
contacted.
and I wanted to clarify that too, Mark,
Yeah.
because eventually we could wind up with this body or the planning commission having a quasi judicial hearing, where if one member of that body had information that was not shared with everybody else, that makes that hearing unfair. And so the standard order to counselors and commissioners is, you know what, it's easier to just not talk about it. And so I apologize, Ms. Knight, that you didn't get a call back from somebody explaining that the planning commission chair couldn't really talk to you about this, or it's not a good idea to. That's a shortcoming that, you know, needs to be addressed. Somewhere along the line, a ball was dropped. Sorry.
It was addressed. It was addressed by
Okay.
myself to Ms. Knight.
Okay.
I explained to her the reasoning behind
Okay.
all that, just as you've done.
Right, and so, you know, it's not trying to tiptoe around and do something behind your back, it's just kind of the way the process unfolds. So, we're trying to make sure we do everything.
The other thing I want to be clear
Mark, I'm
about
sorry,
is.
I didn't mean to
That's
make
okay.
it sound
Right.
like.
The
you had
site
any
plan
problem.
review process is not a discretionary set of criteria. It doesn't deal with questions such as, is the development compatible with the area? It deals strictly with, it's like a zoning checklist, and I've explained this several times to Ms. Knight. That's why I've said, you can appeal it, I'm not sure what you would appeal on, because we're looking at, do they provide the requisite amount of off-street parking? Yes or no? It's just yes, no answers. It's not compatibility or incompatibility. The number of units allowed in the high-density residential zone has been set as far back as any zoning record I can find in the 60s, as has the three-story height limit. That's been on the books for a long, long time. So this isn't some kind of new thing that's coming along. You know, this has been in effect for some time.
I had one quick question about that process in there. We mentioned that there can be an appeal of the site review decision.
Mhm.
How is that communicated to folks? Because that was a question that was asked is,
They can ask, when they receive the notice of a pending application and the ability to comment, there is a note there that they can request a copy of the decision.
okay,
If they
so
request a copy of that decision, it says there, this becomes effective 12 days from now unless
so
appealed.
adjacent neighbors will get that notice?
If they ask for it when they provide written comments, we are not required by the zoning ordinance to send the notice of the decision to anybody who hasn't asked for it.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what
But you will, just so the property owners are clear, that they will get
Right.
notification that there is a pending.
There is a pending application and a request their comments. It's sent to every property owner within 250
And
feet
so
of
you
the
can make
property.
comment at that point, and then, as Mark says, you can request to have a copy of the decision mailed to you, from which you can decide as to whether or not you would like to appeal that.
Right, that's correct.
So that's
Do we
the
need
procedure.
representation for an appeal, or no?
No.
No, not necessarily.
We've had a whole lot of folks appeal things and just come and tell us what they think.
Yeah.
Lane, this is kind of out of left field, but when I was chair of planning, we had an issue come through that, I recall there's a state statute that says you can only have 5 unrelated adults per dwelling unit. Is that still the case? No?
That was one of the suggested pieces.
Okay, I thought
but it never
state
went
law specified that there's a limit. And I remember that that's what we were suggesting, Steve, but I thought it was based in state law.
Well, let me just say,
Not,
whatever it is, and
Right.
the developer will have to comply with
Right.
whatever
Okay.
state requirements are.
okay.
I know the city of Eugene has that
Yeah.
as a rule, because,
Right.
well,
But
you
again,
can't have
that,
more than
that
5
again is
related
an issue for the development process, and without getting, frankly, I'd take 5 minutes to look that up and confirm what the
Right.
answer is, but the ultimate answer is whatever standards are applicable at the time the application is filed
Mhm.
are the standards the developer would have to meet, both city and state.
And I recognize when I asked that question that it's really difficult for landlords to control the extra kid moving in, because you have to give 24 hours notice, and that's when they move the bed out of the garage. So, you know, it's not an easy nut to crack. And Mark, I wanted to ask you, is it unusual to have a zone, an RH zone that specifies units rather than bedrooms, or is that standard language?
It's standard, it's
Okay.
dwelling units per acre is,
Yeah.
standard.
That's what I thought.
I had
Go
another
ahead.
quick question about just the vacation process period. I know I've been involved in one, so we do have a precedence for vacating this sort of a strip of property to the adjacent property owner. I know we did that recently
Right.
up here on Monmouth. Is that something we've done frequently? Do we occasionally? What other instances have we done this?
Well, I guess I would answer by saying I've never worked for any jurisdiction where I couldn't find some undeveloped right-of-way someplace, that if somebody wanted to pursue a vacation, they could. The world is full of unplatted or undeveloped and platted streets.
Yeah.
So, and this was a different era. This was basically Mr. Marr saying, I'm gonna build this section of Jackson Street to get to the subdivision I'm building further back, and I don't quite know where the 83 feet, where that generated from when 66 matched whatever, everything else that was out
So
there.
just the street layout to begin with was.
It was different, yeah.
And I would say the answer to that question is that it's not common, but that's just because applications typically are not, it's not frequent.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
Right.
pretty standard when the application is submitted and you've got right-of-way that exceeds your requirements of local government and really excess property then basically, or excess land that's reserved within that right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
You find it too in a lot of cities that have alleys that wind up being undeveloped, and over time, people kind of build a fence in the middle, and yeah, and sometimes they vacate those.
Steve, do you have anything?
No, no, thanks.
Jason? I can just circle back.
I'm good.
Derek?
I think I'm good too.
Bill? Oh, I'm sorry.
Um,
I'm used to 3 people.
Well, when I read this in the materials that were provided, I guess I was under the impression that well, I don't know, clarify, who does them?
No one owns it, it's publicly dedicated right of way. You and I could go there legally and walk right now, it's like a street, but it doesn't have any pavement on it. So there isn't an owner in fee title. There is just, it is dedicated for use by the public. Yeah,
And the city controls that use because
Right.
it's within the jurisdiction of the city, so it's up to the city to be able to surrender that right-of-way. But it's not like a piece of city-owned real property.
right.
Because it seemed to be, and that clarifies, it corrects my misunderstanding, but, you know, that's a significant amount of property for the city to just simply give away. 14 inches up here, I'm not too worried about. But, you know, 4,000 square feet, that's a fair amount, especially if it has an economic benefit to the, you know, to the landowner, to which this will be ceded. And,
And that's a benefit the city may also reap in terms of property taxes when the property's developed as well.
So Wayne, basically nobody owns this, this is just a,
It's dedicated to the public.
Dedicated to the
Yeah,
public.
to the public.
Is it
But-
like parking strips? Is that?
Yeah, that's
But
All our
what it
streets,
is.
our streets are dedicated to the public. We don't own Main Street.
That's
but
right.
It's a stretch of land. And so this is a stretch of land that just never had any pavement put on it because it was too wide. Didn't need it.
no pipes under it either.
No, no pipes. That's the things we're looking for is that,
Yeah.
is it going to impact the transportation system and are there existing utilities that at the very least you would have to record easements to keep them there?
Right.
Yeah.
and on the existing property, tax lot 1301, I believe it is, that's currently of the size that could have, you reckon, 19 units?
It's 1,300 and 1,301.
Oh, yeah, 1,300,
Yeah,
1,301.
yeah.
So you're
That's
about 9/10 of an acre.
right. Yeah, so with tax lot 1303, which is a 1-foot strip, and then this area to be vacated, if that's all consolidated, it's slightly more than an acre.
So 1303 is a foot wide,
A foot wide.
and it's half a block long, two-thirds of a block long.
Right. Well, that was put in place at that time, when Mr. Marr built the street, there was an agreement that said the city would not grant access to anybody to the north or south until Mr. Marr had been satisfied for the costs of building the street. Nowadays, we would give him an SDC credit, or say, the heck with you, you want to get access to your subdivision, you build the street, you know, yeah. But, so that was a 1-foot strip that was recently held, that was held by the city, and we just released it to the developer upon the Marr estate telling us that they've received satisfaction for the cost of building that section of the road.
And that was based on a reserve agreement back when this was added.
70s, yeah.
Okay. I just see these little pieces on these maps, and it's like, how did that happen?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
And so by vacating this piece of property dedicated to the public, to the private developer, up to 3 additional units could be constructed. If in fact we're at 19.
It's a tenth of an acre, so there's 20 units allowed in the zone, so 1/10 of 20 is 2. Yeah.
Would this make a difference, Mark, about access to the property? If this were not dedicated, you couldn't put a driveway across it, or,
Parallel parking.
Well, it would be kind of odd, because it would be, it's quite a ways from the existing curb line. It's really interior to the property.
just a little piece of trying to understand the whole big picture?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure
Okay.
what that does to it,
Okay.
in terms of how it would develop.
Okay. Thanks.
But again, the issue for the council really is whether this is
Right, no, I understand.
needed for public use, yeah.
And I would have to, well, I'll ask council to address that. Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, it troubles me, all of the testimony we've heard notwithstanding, but but above that, it troubles me that we're going to, in effect, transfer 4,000 square feet of property for the public good, or the public use, whatever the language is, to a private developer, and with no, and not that I expect any compensation to come back to the city, but that's a windfall to me.
Like I said, the 14 inches didn't increase the capacity of that building owner to
Right.
develop a much larger building. In this case, 3 units, or 2 units even, at how much per month for the rest of the
Right.
life of the development. And we get taxes of how much versus, right? So yeah, I see what you mean, then that does seem like a much greater benefit to the private developer than it is to the city for the taxes that would be accrued from that 4,000 square feet.
Mr. Mayor?
You've closed testimony.
Darren, do you have anything?
Well, there's multiple issues here, but really the only issue we have in front of us is the vacation. And even though we've got lots of testimony to other issues that are somewhat related, but really aren't related to the vacationing, as far as I can see, The issues that we would normally address would be, is there a public need for it continuing, which doesn't appear to be the case. It doesn't appear that there's any remnants of things from way back when that would impact us at this point either, that I can see anyhow from the staff report. So I mean, I think we gotta keep focusing on really what the issue is at hand, even though there's a whole nother series of things beyond that potentially that will fall out down the road. So I don't think I really have any questions. I mean, I think this part, I think the staff's done a good job of getting the report in front of us, address the issues related to the vacationing, and so I think I'm good with it as is at this point.
Okay. Jesse?
Good.
I don't have anything else.
Steve?
I'm okay, I don't have any questions.
John, anything else? Well, with that, I will close the hearing. And we have in front of us this staff recommendation to approve this vacation. And there is a proposed motion in that direction.
So I move that council approve right-of-way vacation 14-01.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. And is this a roll call?
I would do a roll call, yeah.
Okay, so Phyllis, if I could have one of those.
Alrighty.
And then implicated this as direction to staff to prepare an ordinance, yeah.
Counselor Carey,
No.
Counselor Coons,
No.
Counselor Milligan,
Aye.
Counselor Schaefer,
Aye.
Counselor Silvernagle.
Aye.
Okay, and by my count, this is 3-2 to approve the vacation of this strip of property. Okay, thank you.
Well, we haven't, doesn't the ordinance actually
Yeah.
get the final approval of
Yes,
that?
right, yeah, you're just advancing this.
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah, that's
Right.
approval of the
We have
motion,
approved
not the
something
approval of the
that says an
vacation.
ordinance.
Yeah,
Then
to
we'll have
approve
this
the
discussion
vacation.
again.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Yep.
You know, sometimes I get sloppy when I phrase things.
You'll get
Okay.
the vote again.
Could you just clarify that for us?
So we have approved, we have completed a hearing, we have approved a motion to basically direct staff to prepare an ordinance vacating this strip of property. And so that will come back to us next meeting, Mark. We'll have an ordinance that we'll have a first reading on, and then the first meeting in September, we'll have a second reading and a vote as to whether to adopt that ordinance. And then from there, it turns into that process where if in fact there's a development to go forward, a site plan would come in. And at that point, folks would be notified, right, Mark, that a plan was officially on the table. And there would be an opportunity to comment. And if you put in a written comment, you'll get a notice of, help me go through this.
If you request a copy of the decision, you will receive a copy of the decision.
If you request a copy of the decision, you can receive it, you'll receive that, and if you want to appeal that decision,
It'll state on that notice, you have, I believe it's 12 days to make.
okay, and it would go first to the planning commission, and depending on what happens there, then it would come to this body. And you could conceivably pursue it all the way through Luba into circuit court, if you feel like there's grounds to do that. Did I get it all?
Luba and the Court of Appeals.
Right, what did I say, circuit court,
Yeah.
court of appeals, I knew better. Okay, so does that clarify everything?
I appreciate it.
Okay. So Mark will let you know if we get anything formally proposed and what it looks like and so on. Okay. Any council comments? And hearing none. We do have both a work session and an urban renewal agency meeting, and I would propose that we handle those at the back table and take 5 before we head there. So if I could have a motion to adjourn to the work session.
So move, adjourn.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let us take 5 and meet in the back.